Hello everyone, Namaste. Welcome to another episode of Akash Varta podcast Space Newsbeat. This week we have very interesting stories for you. The first one, NASA trying to deflect an asteroid that may potentially save Earth and its population from devastation. Second bit of news is a bit of a delay in the James Webb telescope, the future eyes of human race into the space after the Hubble Space Telescope. The third bit of exciting news story is scientists may have found a new planet in another galaxy. Right? That's very interesting. The fourth bit of news, right? This is exciting. NASA intends to put a nuclear reactor on the surface of the moon. If this is successful, we might have a colony in or on moon in the next short span of time. The fifth exciting bit of news is Russia might be lying about leaving the International Space Station. Let us discuss the juicy details in the following article. The final bit of news is dedicated to ISRO. We'll be going through news regarding the Gaganyaan mission. Right? We also have news regarding the new technologies that ISRO is supposed to be working on. And not only that, we have a bit of information on global coalition to help India achieving its dream of putting an Indian in orbit. So let us get into the first DART news without further delay. NASA launches asteroid deflecting DART spacecraft. So DART stands for Double Asteroid Redirection Test Mission. So this is being directed by NASA and also Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory. This is a coalition, or this is a combination of these two organizations working together along with many other organizations that are sister concerns to NASA. You have JPL, you have LARC, you have JSC, etc. and so forth. So this is the first mission from NASA in its planetary defense system. Right? The idea is that DART is a planetary defense driven test where they are testing technologies for future. Right? The idea behind this is if and when an asteroid is on way to collide with Earth. Remember, this is not something new for us. We had asteroid impacts in the past that brought the end of the entire civilization at that point of time, quote unquote dinosaurs. Now the stakes are higher. We are living right now. We cannot afford another asteroid impact or a world ending asteroid impact on the surface of Earth. So they are trying to test a technology where they use a mass that deliberately collides with the intended or the supposed future Earth killer asteroid that is coming towards Earth, and they might use kinetic energy to deflect that asteroid and prevent it from hitting the Earth. So this is the first of its kind of a demonstration where they are using kinetic impactor technique, where they use it to change the motion of the asteroid that is in space. Remember, this is the first of our planetary defense driven test. We are trying to develop test technologies that might help human race in the future, not only on Earth, also in some sort of other planets also, if interplanetary missions become a reality. Now the idea behind this DART spacecraft is that it is going to impact an asteroid that is nowhere near the Earth right now, that is nowhere near the threat to Earth in the future or in the present. This is just a test. So they are going to hit the moon of this asteroid and induce some sort of an differentiative in the orbit of this asteroid so that it changes its course. So who is the victim here? The victim here is an asteroid called Didymos. This is a binary near Earth asteroid, right? That is the intended target for the DART demonstrative mission. Now it has two bodies. It has a primary body and it has a secondary body, which the NASA and other space agencies around the world are calling it as the moonlet. The first, they are not going to hit this target. They are going for the secondary body, that is the moonlet of the primary body, that is Didymos. Now they are trying to hit the moonlet of Didymos asteroid, which is a binary near Earth asteroid. So they are observing this asteroid as of right now using telescopes based on the Earth, and they are trying to develop a trajectory where the intersection of this satellite and this moonlet takes place. So the idea is that by the time the DART spacecraft reaches that Didymos target or the moonlet, it will achieve enough kinetic energy and it will impact in such a way that it will be a kinetic impact. Mind you, it will directly hit the moonlet, so that it inflicts or it introduces some sort of a deflective thing into the moonlet. Remember, the speed at which the spacecraft will hit the moonlet will determine how much deviation is being introduced into the moonlet. As far as NASA is concerned, they are going to hit or deliberately crash the spacecraft at an approximate speed of 6.6 kilometers. This mission is significant. The sole purpose or the sole aim of this mission is to crash the aircraft deliberately into the moonlet of the Didymos system or the Didymos asteroid system. The idea is that we will introduce enough change in the asteroid or the moonlet that can be observed from Earth and that can be measured. So this is simply a proof of concept mission if it is successful. Remember, the mass of the aircraft itself is very small. I think 670 or 800 kgs is the mass of the spacecraft itself, and that is why we have selected a target that is small in size. Small in size in terms of space, but in terms of impact and the potential fallout from the impact, that moonlet, if it hits Earth, it would be the end of, it's an world ending event. So in terms of space, it is a small item, but from the perspective of world ending events, if it hits Earth, kiss your future goodbye. So that is the mission. This is very interesting, right? We are testing a technology in real time. Again, if it is successful, it will become potentially one of the first line of defenses from future Earth hitting asteroids. Again, I found this interesting news to be interesting. They have already launched the aircraft. It is already it got a ride on back of Falcon, SpaceX Falcon 9. The mission is a success as of now, according to the parameters. It is on the way to intersect the Didymos asteroid right now. We have to wait few more days before we get some sort of an plan. So space telescope launch delayed after site incidents. It seems that somebody is jinxing the launch of James Webb telescope. See, James Webb telescope will revolutionize how astronomers will make observations or capture data in the future. There has been delays after delays after delays in the launch or in the building of this James Webb telescope. I think the people at NASA who were building this took the dialogue Tariq pe Tariq, Tariq pe Tariq, Tariq pe Tariq to their heart, and there have been delays after delays after delays in this. And finally, when we thought that we are going to see this launch of this thing by the end of this year, still on track but delayed further. It seems that when they were trying to attach the satellite, attach the James Webb telescope to the launch adapter. See, the launch adapter is the thing that attaches the satellite, in this case the James Webb telescope, to the rocket, to the launch vehicle. And when they were trying to attach this, there was some unplanned release. Unplanned release is the professional way of saying that somebody screwed up in the process, or somebody released or did something at wrong time when they were supposed to not do it, if that makes any sense. See, they simply screwed up. That's the simple explanation for it. I think, yeah, that is what has happened. So it seems that somebody released a clamp when they weren't supposed to release it. As a result of it, when they were attaching it to the launch vehicle adapter, this has caused a vibration throughout the observatory, throughout the James Webb telescope, and as a result of it, they are going to delay the launch until December 22nd. Now they are trying to go through entire checklist of the telescope or the observatory so that nothing is out of ordinary. Because remember, once it goes out of the orbit, they don't want a repeat of Hubble. Remember, when they launched Hubble, they realized that there was something wrong with the optics of it, and they had to launch a space shuttle to repair it. But I think this is on the side of NASA, this is a caution, because they want to investigate what has happened, and they have to decide whether no damage has come to the critical components, or not only critical but any component of the observatory. Now remember, the space telescope was supposed to launch on December 18th. Now in the long list of delays, this is one more. Hopefully this is the final one. Hopefully they find the problem, or hopefully they don't find any problem. That would be the best case scenario. But if they find any problem, that is going to delay this thing into 2022. Remember, once, if God forbid, if they find a delay, they have to go through the entire checklist once again, and they have to perform all the tests that they have performed till this point of time. Let us hope for some good news. Let us hope that this telescope or this observatory, whatever you call it, I call it a telescope, will take place, or the launch will take place on December 22nd. To those interested, this will be an Arianespace launch which will happen from the French side of it. Let us hope we get to see the launch by the end of this year. As far as a space enthusiast, this year hasn't been pretty lame for us. If you are a fan of ISRO, we haven't got any good news from that side of it. This is not a criticism, just a disappointment. Okay, that is the Space Webb news, or the James Webb news that we had for this week. Moving on, astronomers discover first possible planet outside of Milky Way. I think in the earlier first or second episode, I was talking about how scientists or astronomers or observers use dip in light when they were observing a planetary system and finding out whether it's a planet or not. Similarly, it seems that astronomers have indirectly, not directly, identified a potential exoplanet outside of our Milky Way. See, we have indirectly observed thousands of planets outside of our solar system. Remember, these are called exoplanets, by the way. But this might be the first time that we might have identified a planet outside of our Milky Way galaxy. Now, what galaxy is this? So it seems that astronomers have found evidence of an exoplanet in Messier 51 or M51, which is a whirlpool galaxy. Now, this galaxy is approximately 28 million light years away from Earth, and it seems that using the Chandra X-ray Observatory, this is NASA's X-ray observatory, space observatory. It is a kind of a telescope that uses X-ray as a medium to scan the skies. Now, it seems that they have identified a planet when the Chandra X-ray picked up a dimming of X-ray light coming from M51 ULS 1, which is a binary system that they have identified earlier. Now, it means that this dimming means that there might be a chance that a massive star in orbit around a neutron star, a black hole, it might have a planet that is in its system. Now, remember, This is something that they have observed. Because of the way that the universe works, in order to confirm this, we have to wait 70 years. Right? Because the transiting object or the orbit, that object that is orbiting that we have observed through the dimming process, we'll have to wait 70 years before we confirm whether it's an exoplanet or not. So let us be optimistic, right? But as far as the astronomers are concerned, they are very confident that it is an exoplanet and nothing like a stardust or whatever the other explanations seem to be. Again, a welcome sign. I'm happy that they have found it. I hope they can confirm it in a very technical way, in a sense that they are sure that it is an exoplanet or not some sort of a thing. But nonetheless, yeah, that's the caveat with space observations. Time is on the side of the space and not on the side of ours. Now to the bit of interesting news. Now NASA wants to put a nuclear reactor on the moon by the end of this decade. Now this is not a new idea. At various points of time, almost at every point of time when somebody is talking about, or one agency is talking about establishing a permanent base on moon, the discussion in regarding to supplying energy to that base has always been kind of discussed around nuclear energy, right? By way of thinking that nuclear energy is the best way to supply energy to those future bases on the surface of the moon. Now again, with the renewed space race between government entities, in the sense as government backed space agencies and private players, insert Blue Origin and SpaceX. Not only that, we have some other companies that are actively trying to put bases on moon. It seems that officials are reconsidering a base that is powered by a nuclear reactor in the future. Okay, this is not something that is out of the blue, right? We have, as I said earlier, there have been pretty clear intentions from the NASA itself and various other space agencies around the world that one of the best ways to power bases in the moon in the near future, not only in the moon, in the other planets also, would be using nuclear energy. So remember, the NASA's program is called the Artemis program, right? That is the program that intends to put an American back on the moon. Let us hope we have some sort of concrete details in the future. Now the idea is that they are going to build a lightweight fission reactor, right, that can provide electricity up to 10 kilowatts. It can run some 30 to 40 average households simultaneously. Remember, it would be like that much energy or even more energy is required to run a base in the future. See, the discussions in regards to moon have always been that it is going to be used as a fueling station. Later on, we'll be discussing about a bit of news from ISRO also, where they specifically talk about this, using moon as a base or a refueling station, where they'll try to harvest the resources that are available on the surface of the moon to either create oxygen or to create future rocket fuel that will propel rockets into long and deeper space missions. So it seems that this reactor, which is a fission reactor, will be powering those bases if NASA successfully starts building bases on the surface of the moon. As I said, the ideas for using nuclear energy in space is not new. The idea has been hovering over agencies' heads since 1950s. Let us see how this thing will plan out. I think they'll come out with some sort of thing where they'll ask companies or individuals to come up with plans of realizing this dream. And if Artemis program is successful, we'll have some sort of a reactor on the surface of the moon. By the way, the Chinese and the Russian space agencies, particularly the Chinese space agency, is progressing in establishing a permanent base on moon. We are going to see a nuclear reactor on the surface of the moon powering bases, not a single term, bases, multiple bases on the surface of the moon in the near future. Coming to the next bit of news, new Russian module launched to International Space Station. So I may have to issue a correction here. Russia is not saying that they are going to leave International Space Station by 2025. They are saying that they are considering leaving the International Space Station. We don't know what their intentions is. Let us discuss that at a later point of time. But as far as the present is concerned, on 24th of November, a Russian rocket has successfully delivered a new docking module to the International Space Station. So this was on a Soyuz rocket. It was carrying a Progress cargo ship with a peer docking module that was attached to that Progress cargo ship. Remember, Baikonur, Kazakhstan. That is where the Russians launched their spacecraft from. Now this is interesting because the dock, the pier dock or Prichal dock from the Russian side of it, pier in English, is a module that is attached to the is going to be or is have already attached to the new Russian Nauka laboratory module that they have launched earlier. Now the idea is that this module will add new 6 docking points or docking ports to the existing Russian segment of the International Space Station. The idea is that this will potentially act as an adapter onto which future Russian segments of International Space Station can be attached to, which will enable potential future expansion of the Russian side of the International Space Station. So this is interesting. On the one hand, we have information. See, let us forget that they are going to leave the International Space Station. But as far as the present is concerned, this Prichal or pier docking module will have 6 docking ports on it, and that will enable future Russian segments or future station segments to be attached to the International Space Station. Now coming to the Indian segment of the podcast, we have news that ISRO's Gaganyaan missions are set to return early next year. So this was from the minister, right? Jitendra Singh, Dr. Jitendra Singh, who happens to be the Union Minister of State for the Department of Space. Now, under the Gaganyaan mission, 2 unmanned flights were supposed to happen, and the third was supposed to be a manned mission, meaning the third would be carrying Indian crew to the orbit. Now, the intent was, or at least the idea or the hope was, that India's first manned flight was supposed to originally take place before India completed 75 years of our independence on August 15th of 2022. That was the intent behind the original deadline. It was the thought that by 2021 we would have completed all the mission requirements. We would have completed successfully the 2 unmanned flights also. And finally, before August 15th of 2022, we would be having our first flight of manned Indian crew in the orbit by 2022. Now, this was also the same that was announced by the Prime Minister during one of his speeches way back in 2018. Since then, we know the story what has happened. See, the biggest one has been the COVID-19 pandemic, because not only did it affect the manufacturing side of it, it also affected the testing side of it also, because They were supposed to not only streamline the manufacturing process, but they also should have completed their testing of systems and subsystems. Remember, we recently got the news that the initial crew of the Vyomanauts, right? 4 Vyomanauts have completed their training in Russia, and they are back in India, and now they have gone back to Russia to complete their final phase of the training also. Now we have information that by early January of 2022, we will at least have one uncrewed mission or a testing mission to be carried out. Remember, this is again the hope here. We don't know the entire information, we don't have the entire information, but let us hope for the best. Let us hope that we get to see a unmanned test flight or an unmanned test flight of the Gaganyaan module by the end of January 2022. Along those lines, we have an additional bit of information from industry sources. It seems that one of the private sectors or one of the private participants in the Gaganyaan mission have successfully handed over their part of manufactured equipment to ISRO so that it can be integrated into the crew module. This means that the reason that we are talking about it is it simply means that the manufacturing process is back on track. The moment they get the parts from these private players, these industry partners, they'll get integrated into the crew module and the testing of systems and subsystems begin. The faster they get the parts, the faster they assemble, the faster they test, the faster will be the flight test. And if everything goes according to the plan without any hiccups, we would be seeing our first manned flight of Gaganyaan mission. So that's the end of this bit of information in regards to India's Gaganyaan mission. Let us hope that next year we'll have flight tests, and by the beginning of 2023 we'll have our first Indian crewed Gaganyaan mission in the orbit. Let us hope for the best. Now coming to another bit of news again related to Indian Space Research Organization. ISRO is conducting a conclave called ISRO's Directorate of Technology Development and Innovation, DTDI. So every year this conclave gets conducted, or ISRO conducts this conclave, and during this conclave a bit of information from ISRO comes to the public knowledge. During one of the inaugural sessions of this conclave, Chairman of ISRO, Dr. K. Shivan, was saying that ISRO has been working on nearly 50 futuristic technologies, and these 50, few of them are quantum communications, space debris mitigation technologies, robotic arm for future space station that India might or will build and have it in the orbit, and not only that, interplanetary rovers. See, we don't know where these technologies are right now in terms of timelines. It is hoped that there is some sort of a feasibility study being carried out by ISRO, and they are in the process of coming up with procedures or plans or projects to enable them or make them or turn them into reality. See, as far as what are the technologies that they are talking about here, no doubt all of these technologies are required for longer duration missions in the future. Either it may be quantum communication, either it may be the space debris mitigation. Future is going to be decided by who has the best technology in terms of space debris mitigation, not only that, quantum communication. So this is very important. During one of his speeches, he was saying that we are developing self-eating rockets or self-vanishing satellites, and not only that, robotic arms to catch space debris. So this is an interesting development from ISRO. I have seen a bit of criticism on social media platforms directed towards Twitter, stating that let us fix the issues that we have with the current missions or current technologies that India has, and let us think about future technologies later. See, that is not how progress happens, and that is not how things should happen also. Organizations like ISRO should not function in silos, meaning they cannot relegate themselves to certain areas of research and development. The vast their research and development wing is, the better future the organization, and not only that organization, the country has. The promise that these uh, technologies are being explored by ISRO is certainly a welcome sign, because remember, whatever the technology that they develop, they pioneer, they research and develop, will always trickle down to Indian citizenry, which will improve the lives of the citizens. That should be the approach when it comes to research and development. What we should be doing right now as a collective citizens or supporters of Indian space program is to ensure or make our voice heard, that the budget of the ISRO goes up at least to a respectable level, given how much they do with what they are given. I think they are doing an impeccable job with it. But I'm not saying that there are certain areas where ISRO can improve. The primary one would be the communication, how they communicate with the citizenry, or how they communicate with their peer group. That 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 area needs a little bit of improvement from their side. But that is how things should be. R&D should be the priority of a space organization, and one like ISRO, which does great things with what it has. I think research in these areas is certainly a welcome sign. Particularly, the interesting ones are the three, that is the quantum communication, space debris mitigation, and the technology that they're talking about, which talks about self-eating rockets or self-vanishing satellites. The robotic arm seems to be interesting. Now moving on to next. India working with 6 countries for human space flight, Gaganyaan, says Dr. K. Shivan. So this was again from the conclave itself, right? Now, the reason that we are discussing this particular bit of information is that, sorry, this is not from the conclave, this is from another initiative called Sydney Dialogue, which is an initiative by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. This is also conducted annually, and see, agencies like ASA, ESA, CNES, which is the French Space Agency, we have JAXA helping us, we have our astronauts being trained in Russia, Vyomanauts being trained in Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center in Russia. We have French supplying and helping in the space medicine aspect of it. We are using Canadian and Romanian technologies for wind tunnel testing. And not only that, we have agreements in place, or we are in the process of finalizing agreements with countries like Australia and European Space Agency, where they will help us in tracking our people on orbit or in orbit. So, the more countries participate in our program, the better chances of success that it has. Again, my personal belief is it doesn't take away anything from the credit to be awarded or given to ISRO. It's very nice thing that we are asking help from other countries in areas where we don't have the expertise. It doesn't take away anything from the mission. In opposite to that, it adds more value and great respect to the scientists who are working on this program, because it not only ensures that we learn these technologies in the process, it also ensures that we develop new processes that are in line with Indian principles for the future space missions. So these are the important bits of information for this week. Hope you have enjoyed the podcast up until now. If you have liked the podcast, please click the like button on YouTube and subscribe. If you are listening to the audio version of it, please subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and any other audio podcasting platforms. You can reach out to me at Akashvarta on Twitter and leave your questions or your requests for videos on there. And until that point of time, take care. See you in the next episode. Kid Brown out.